Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Late Night Learning. I am your host, Dr. Anthony Palomba. And today we're going to be going through data visualizations. This is a topic area that is kind of nebulous, and a lot of people don't quite understand what encompasses study of this sort. And really, data visualizations gets into this mindset of how do we make numbers, facts, figures, charts sexy, appealing? How do we make something kind of jump off a slide such that it can be persuasive to an executive or a manager? Data visualization has really come a long way since Excel and PowerPoint debuted some 30 years ago or 40 years ago, whatever it's been, up into Tableau and Power BI and all of these kinds of interactive dashboards. And so what's a hot topic right now in data visualization is really figuring out when do you have a static presentation like a PowerPoint in which the slide is fixed, the data is there, there's nothing that can be manipulated, versus creating a Tableau chart or dashboard. A Tableau dashboard or a Power BI dashboard in which it's interactive, it's clickable, you can play around with the variables that have been orchestrated together to create some sort of dashboard mosaic to give people options in how they want to filter and examine relationships across different kinds of variables. And so with that lens, with that backdrop set, in this particular lecture, we're going to be going through just some of the basics surrounding data visualization. And in really thinking about how do we first articulate a story, and thinking about some of the ingredients that are necessary in telling a persuasive story. We know that having charts colored well, great images, great energy from the presenter are all key determinants of having an excellent presentation. But there has to be a story. There has to be something that encapsulates the imagination and energy and commitment of the audience to the presentation. At the end of the presentation, the presenter's over or done, but the audience is about to begin. The presentation has been executed, it has been dutifully distributed to an audience, but at the end, when we're tired and exhausted, we need to make sure that the audience is energized and mobilized and galvanized to keep moving along, right? We want them to take heed of the recommendations that we've laid out in front of them and have them move along. And so thinking about how we also initiate tension, initiate contrast, and get people to start thinking in the beginning of the presentation is something we're also going to be covering as well. Without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about just before we get into data visualization is I want you to think about the audience. It is so critical to think about the audience before you start designing. You want to think about what is their background, what is their lifestyle, what can they relate to? Can you tell anecdotal stories about fly fishing or about sports or about something they can relate to? How close are they to the opportunity or problem? Do they work in your department? Are they not in your department? Are they senior level? Are they C-suite? If that's the case, they may not be looking at data as frequently as mid-level managers. What data are they already familiar with? What do they already know? What don't they know? Thinking about what don't they know is absolutely critical and crucial to the development and embracement of your presentation from others. Consider here the lowest common denominator. When you're going through your presentation, you want to be sure that someone who is not familiar with any of the stuff that you are presenting on can follow along. Sure, there will be experts in the room. Sure, there will be people who understand what a regression is, a factor analysis, a cluster analysis, structural equation model, conjoint, whatever you're throwing. But You want to be sure that your presentation gels with the people who are not familiar with these topics. The experts in the room, if they seek out more information about the execution, the design, the Q&A session is a perfect time to go through that. And you'll anticipate these questions by having a robust appendix. What is success to them? These are your audience members. What are their objectives? What are their fears? It's important to think about what is success for them. Is it cutting the budget? Is it raising revenue? Is it hiring more people? Is it becoming more agile? Is it optimizing workflows? What does your audience care about? What keeps them up at night? What are they fearful of? What are they worried about? What are they concerned about? From all of these bullet points, you want to think about in one sentence, what would you tell them? And this gets to our bluff, right? Bottom line up front, what should we do here? Should we pivot? Should we embrace this opportunity? How do we thwart this threat, right? Most business presentations discuss either a business opportunity or a business threat. And so before we begin to design, we want to think about, and even storyboard for that matter, what exactly is the story that we are seeking to tell? And what do we want people to latch onto? Let's keep going. Storytelling. Stories link one person's heart to another and produce experiences. Now, to begin any good story, we can think about Batman, we can think about Superman, we can think about Goldilocks and the Three Bears. We can really think about any kind of story. And in the beginning, we know that something must be at stake, right? Something must be at stake. There must be some sort of adversity or opportunity or contrast that the character faces. And the character must not only countenance this, must not only face this, but rise and surmount the obstacles that are before them. Something must be at stake that convinces the audience that a great deal will be lost if they don't act. So again, what conflict or imbalance or opportunity are you seeking to illustrate to your audience? And it's this very, very important phrase, this great way of lighting your story, lighting a fire. What is versus what could be? And I want to harp on this a little bit, this idea of what is versus what could be. And so when we're thinking about this, we think about what is. This is the status quo. Status quo is where we can keep trucking along, whether it's a bull economy or a bear economy, right? Whether the sky is falling or we're going through the roof. We're talking about revenue. We're talking about price to earnings ratios or earnings per share, right? We're talking about any of these financial metrics. What is where we're currently at, good or bad. What could be is where we're aiming to bring the audience, where we're aiming to propel the audience up to hit some sort of goal, to hit some sort of marker, demarcation, brass ring that can be obtained by following the recommendations in this presentation. So as we're construing this, I want you to begin to think about laying down the foundation for what is currently in your firm and what could be. What could happen? Where can we go? Because you're setting people up not only to see the end of your presentation, they know where you're going to crescendo, they know what the zenith is of your presentation. But now you've set them up to understand the steps which you're about to present that will get them from what is to what could be. And we see this, right? We see this all the time with storytelling. There's a dragon that appears right at the beginning of a fairy tale. And we kind of know that at the end the hero is going to have to grapple with the dragon, right? It's just a matter of, does the hero have to find elves that maybe have a sword, and then, find the shield that he or she needs, and then find the armor, right? Going through the necessary steps to begin to prepare to beat hopefully beat the dragon. So it's that kind of idea that we set audiences up in the beginning, and then we have to give them the necessary steps to figure out how are we getting from what is to what could be. Let's get back to the presentation. Call to adventure. So this is an example of thinking about how can we call people to adventure? Really, how do we call people to action? So this is an example that I have. So first we start off with the what is. Analysts have been placing our products in the top spot in 3 out of 5 categories. Our competitor just shook up the industry with the launch of their T3 XR. It could be a calculator, it can be a widget, we can treat it however we'd like to. It has been heralded as the most innovative product in our space for the last 4 years. The predictions are that firms like ours will have no future unless we license the T3 XR from our competitor. Now here is the what could be. But we will not concede. In fact, today we will retain our lead. I'm pleased to tell you that 5 years ago, we had the same product idea as the T3 XR. So today, we're launching a product so revolutionary that will gain a 10-year lead over our competitors. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the E-Widget. Isn't it beautiful? And so you can see there, quite quickly, I've summarized what our current firm is facing. It could be an accounting firm, could be a hedge firm, it could be any kind of firm. T3 XR, could be a car, could be a calculator. We are acknowledging that a competitor is coming in and may very well gain market share. Market share is important to executives. It's important to everybody, but executives hear market share, they think about their bonuses. You've got their attention. We summarize what's going on, and then we go to what could be. We will not concede. I flipped this from a threat to an opportunity. Rather than just simply acknowledging it as a threat, I'm still saying there's an opportunity here. Now that's one way of doing this, but we know that most business presentations in that sandbox deal with threats and opportunities. Those are primarily what presentations revolve around. And so here I have taken negative news and changed it into good news. This call to adventure is very useful in the beginning of a presentation. It could lead up to a bluff. It's a great way to bring people on to adventure. And it creates contrast, right? You're telling me this is my situation, but now you're telling me I can get somewhere else. I can be somewhere else. This is exciting. How do I get there? You have my attention for the rest of the presentation. Let's keep going. What do you want your audience to do? This is really relevant when we're thinking of those SASs, right? Those sassy top-line sentences that we've talked about. Standalone sentences at the top of the slide, right? Do you want people to assemble, decide, gather, respond? You should start being more meticulous and sensitive and deliberate about the words that you use in your top lines. Those are no longer obligatory sentences that we have to fill in slides. We're better than that. The doers in the audience could be employees, could be mid-level managers, right? Assemble, decide, gather, respond. They tend to be sensitive to those words because that's what they do every day and that's what their bosses ask of them. Hey, could you please assemble? Could you gather? Could you respond to? Suppliers. There might be people in the audience who supply. Maybe it's raw resources. Maybe it's clients. Acquire, fund, provide, support. Who are we talking to? Change perceptions. These members sway individuals and groups and evangelize your idea. Activate, adopt, empower, promote. And then we have innovators. Those executives and C-suite people who are typically tapped to innovate. Think outside the box to modify and spread your ideas. Create, discover, invent. And so quite quickly we can see here that we can really throw out a call to action, call to arms, really through some sort of audience segmentation quite eloquently, quite fastidiously, by picking the right language. We begin to tap different people in the audience because we know what they're sensitive to. We have a general idea. Let's keep going. Mentor. You may believe that you are Danny from The Karate Kid, but I am here to tell you, you are Mr. Miyagi. You are not Luke Skywalker, you are Yoda. I know that we like to be the hero when we are in front of people. We're not. The Luke Skywalkers are in front of us. The Dannys are in front of us. We are Mr. Miyagi. We are Yoda. We are the mentor because we are here to guide and shepherd our audience members toward recognizable and actionable recommendations. We need them to move for us. You need executives to move for you. You need senior executives to move for you. This is vital. Confidence. How can you bolster their confidence to make a change or take a course of action? That's what a presentation is for. You are here to spur people to make a change or take a course of action. Tools. What tools will they gain from being on the journey? What is the reward? The reward should be somewhere in the bluff. It should be somewhere in the call to action. If we do this, then we will get this. If we do this, we will achieve this. Be clear with what people are getting from in paying attention to your presentation. It should be painstakingly clear what the reward will be. Let's keep going. The audience must take risks. Move from being. You're asking people from moving from being afraid of instigating ideas to fighting for a better way. You're asking them to move to doing. Move from low visibility to moving forward without answers. Ideas need a champion to turn them to action. You're changing their behavior. You're pushing them to do something. Think how difficult it is to get your niece or nephew to listen to you for 5 seconds. It's difficult. It's difficult to get people to listen. So it can't be about you. It's got to be about them. Benefit or outcome. If you don't jump in, you will regret the missed opportunity. Empathize and sympathize with your audience. You are asking them to take a risk. And at every step of your presentation, you have to begin to question, can they swallow this? Is this palatable? Here's a little bit more risk. Here's a little bit more risk. You need to start thinking about where your audience is at every stage of your presentation. Are they feeling low or are they feeling high? Let's keep going. Planning the audience journey. Your audience will go through a character arc, inward change, manner of being, and outward change, manner of doing. New manner of being and doing. Thinking about shifting behavior. Let's keep going. The journey. Every slide propels the audience toward the destination. You need to persuade audience members to let go of old beliefs and get to new ones. Let's keep going. So what's your big idea? I want you to rethink your bluffs. I know that we kind of just did an overview of the presentation. but I want you to think about your bluffs. So for instance, it should be unique. The fate of the oceans is at stake. I don't care about the oceans. Now, truthfully, I really do care about the oceans, but that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care that the fate of the oceans is at stake. What does that have to do with me? Worldwide pollution is killing the ocean and us. Well, us includes me. Now you have my attention. Be sure you implicate your audience swiftly and quickly in your presentation. They should feel involved. They should feel as though they are a stakeholder. And that even though they weren't in the back room with you crafting this presentation, it feels like they were. Because you've really considered who they are and where they're coming from. Convey what is at stake in a complete sentence. We must replenish the wetlands through new legislation. Again, who cares? Unless you have crocodiles and seagulls, maybe flamingos and snakes in your audience, nobody cares about this sentence. Nobody cares about this sentence. See if we can do a bit better. Without better legislation, the destruction of the wetlands will cost the Florida economy $70 billion by 2025. Whose attention are we grabbing here? Whose attention are we grabbing here in this particular bluff? Restaurateurs, fishermen and fisherwomen in Florida, government, people who live on the coast, people who live perhaps by the wetlands, right? Now we're implicating different stakeholders here. Now I know that my house near the wetlands may be in jeopardy. Now I know that I need to worry about what is going to be said in this presentation. You have implicated me. Now let's see how well you know my concerns as an audience member who is also a stakeholder. Let's keep going. Audience members may push back or try to find errors, state their fears, assumptions, and concerns before they have an opportunity to state them. You should be in their heads as much as you can be to anticipate what they're worried about, what their concerns are. How are they feeling? How can you allay, placate their concerns? What pain points do they currently have that your presentation can begin to mollify? Let's keep going. At the end, what reward does the audience get for listening to you and acting on it? Well, do they get basic needs? Do they get food, water, shelter, or rest? Do they get security? Do they feel safer? Do they get savings? Are we saving time? Are we saving money? Is there a personal financial reward? Is it gaining a market share? Is it recognition from others? Stronger relationships? Are they closer to a dream? What is it? What does it matter? I'm a faculty member. I have to listen to all of your presentations. Who cares? Why do I care about your presentation? Why does it matter? Aside from a grade, why does it matter? When you begin to think about this, you begin to dig deep. And you begin to treat every presentation as the beginning of a dialogue or movement. And when you come in with that kind of energy and bravado and attention to detail, you're going to find more successes than failures in persuading people. Because it's about them. It was never about you. And that's one of the biggest tricks in doing an effective presentation. It's about the audience. It's never about you. As we can see here, building a business presentation is way more than images and fonts and colors and sexy charts. We will get there. In the next lecture, we will be tackling those subjects. But it's so crucial to have a damn good story. It's so crucial to put your audience forward and center in your presentation. It's so crucial to think about being so grateful to have an audience and making the most of their time, that audiences begin to embrace what we're talking about quite quickly. They feel as though they're fellow stakeholders. They feel as though they made the presentation. They feel as though the presentation speaks to them. The best artists in the world know this. And when we think about a song that's touched us, or oh, he got us, or this song, whether it's Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen, or maybe a Maroon 5 song, or Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, or I'm just trying to think of songs right now. When they hit us because they've reflected on their audience, what their audience is going through, what their audience is facing, what their audience deals with all the time. The best artists, creators, and performers take what we're going through and show it to us and make us realize that we have control to change or to pivot or to think of things differently. And so as a business presenter, I want you to think of the same thing. Think about reshaping your business presentation, not as just a presentation, but as a mirror. As a mirror to help illuminate a path, new direction that your audience can go to so that they can realize something new. That's all the time we have on Late Night Learning. As always, keep laughing and keep learning.